Hi everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Justin and today is the day. Hockey is back. I cannot wait. I am so excited. I've been waiting for this for far too long, but it's finally here. Tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs go up against the Montreal Canadiens in the season opener of the 2021 NHL season. So I figured it's best to put out a video now explaining what I think are the keys to success for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. First, I want to acknowledge the importance of defensive depth. Now, up until this season, Leafs Nation have been crying out for a number one defenseman, a true number one right-handed D to play alongside Morgan Rielly, and we all seem to think that that would be the cure to our defensive woes. Well, I've always disagreed. I think that there was no one player in the entire NHL that the Leafs could have acquired that would suddenly fix our problems. I don't think our problems were found at the top of our defensive lineup. It was more closer to the bottom. When you get into that bottom pairing, and when injuries occur, our call-ups, they were not NHL ready. This year, it seems to be different. The Leafs suddenly have a ton of defensive depth. I mean, for the opening night roster, we're looking at Mikko Lehtonen, Rasmus Sandin, Timothy Liljegren, all being scratched, not in the lineup. And those are all players that I think are NHL ready, or at least ready to take that step. So when you look at the top six, you cannot pick out one player that you're going to say that is a liability to our defensive end. Overall, having six competent defensemen is going to make us much better on the back end, have much better success at keeping the puck out of our net. And if you look at examples from Stanley Cup winners or teams that are regarded as having the best defensive in the league, they're not looking at, two players as a number one pairing being the best. They're looking at the best six. Morgan Rielly, TJ Brodie, super excited to see what they're able to do as a top line pairing, but overall, defensive depth is going to be a major key for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. Next is about consistency. Now I'm talking specifically about our big four: Auston Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander. We need those guys to be at the top of their game as much of this season as possible. I think last year, Auston Matthews was a man on a mission. He played absolutely fantastic, and I think he was a little underrated in the clutch. I mean, how many games were we down by one with only a minute left, and Auston Matthews scores the goal to push overtime, gets us 1 or 2 extra points in that game? We need that same kind of effort from all four of them. Now, I think the other three were absolutely fantastic last year as well, and they got a lot of hate for their seasons because maybe it was a little underwhelming, but I mean, John Tavares and Mitch Marner had reasonable amount of points, and William Nylander was put in a different position last year in front of the net that he excelled at and led the league in goals from right in front of that crease. So all I'm looking for this year from those four is mainly to reduce the amount of time that they're off their game. We need to be able to notice them game in and game out, and if they're not producing on the stat sheet, we need them to be appearing in other areas of the game. I want Sheldon Keefe to not have to push his hand and shake up those lineups as much as possible. We know they'll be shaken up a little bit over the course of the season. That's just how seasons go. But we want those lines to be as steady as possible throughout the year. We want the depth in the offensive play, the depth in the scoring, and we need those four guys on their game as much as we can. Similar to those big four, I want more consistency out of the goaltending as well. Last year, well noted and well documented that our backup situation was absolutely less than ideal. Michael Hutchinson, while a great guy in the locker room and honestly tried, he just wasn't cutting it as our backup goaltender. It took many games for him to get a win as a backup goaltender, and it finally pushed Kyle Dubas's hand into making a trade for Kyle Clifford and Jack Campbell. This year, we start the season with Jack Campbell, and he showed at the end of last season that he is a very competent backup goaltender. Now, a lot of people are saying he should be the starter. I think that's way too early to make that call. He still has quite a high ceiling because he is quite young, so we don't know what his potential is, but very good backup goaltender, will be able to handle a little bit more of that load to take some off of Frederik Andersen, be able to divvy up the games a little bit better, and most importantly, Freddie Andersen and the rest of the team have confidence that when Freddie isn't on his game, or if we need a backup in, or if there's any injuries, that Jack Campbell can come in and save the day. Not to mention, we also acquired Aaron Dell as our third goalie, so that if we do face any of those unfortunate circumstances with injury or COVID or who knows what could happen this season, Aaron Dell is a proven backup in the NHL as well. He can step in and definitely be a contributor to our goaltending situation. So I think having those three in the crease this year will be a big factor for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. This last point is something that I think is not being discussed enough and is very underrated amongst Leafs Nation for this season, and that is the fact that Sheldon Keefe will be the head coach for the entire season. Sheldon Keefe started last year thrown into the fire when the Toronto Maple Leafs were not playing well at all, and we went on a tear after that. Now, things definitely came back down to normal amongst that, but him coming into the mix, I think, meshes so well with the Leafs build. It's well noted that Kyle Dubas and Mike Babcock did not get along as far as their philosophy on how a team should be built. And so Kyle Dubas was acquiring players for speed and skill and puck possession, but Mike Babcock would play them for a grinding cycle role that these guys were not built for. Well, Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas have been together in the past, worked very well together with the Toronto Marlies winning a Calder Cup and back in Sault Ste. Marie. So I think that they are just a match made in heaven. I think that the way that this roster is constructed absolutely complements the way that Sheldon Keefe looks to direct his team. And I think that just not having any of the distractions of Mike Babcock this year is going to be a huge advantage for the Leafs. I think that Sheldon Keefe's going to do an incredible job behind that bench, and I'm really excited to see what he might do. I know last year we got that sneak peek of him putting together the Matthews, Marner, Tavares line, and that was fantastic in the playoffs. They completely dominated the play. Now, we didn't have the depth to support it, but on occasion, seeing moves like that is something Sheldon Keefe is willing to do, and I'm excited to see how that works out. So there are 4 points that I wanted to bring up on keys to success before the 2021 season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. If we can get the consistency, if we can get the depth, if Sheldon Keefe can run the bench like I think he can, we're set up for success for this year. Really excited to see what's going to happen. It should be a fun season. I know that the games against Montreal and Ottawa will be exciting and entertaining as always, but should be able to create some new rivalries with Edmonton and Vancouver as well and the rest of the Canadian teams. So really excited to see what happens. Hopefully we can make the playoffs and get through that first round as well. But I think if we can get those 4 things going, should be set up well.